We are back. Stocks down across the world. Asia sold off, as did Europe. That's how we finished here. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ lower. One exception today, Apple. If you take a look, up better than 1%, but just keep in mind it had an 8-day losing streak that it hadn't seen the equivalent since about 1998. And this, of course, was after Apple said in its last earnings release that it reported its first quarter of a revenue contraction. With me now, Gary B. Smith. He is joining me. Are you on the phone or are you in person? There you are, Gary. Great to see you.
Nice to see you.
There in a beautiful.
All right. Despite my colleagues being envious of your location, we want to get down to some brass tacks here. So is Apple a buy or a sell at this point? 95 and change.
Well, you know, that question, Deirdre, always depends on your time frame. I think for Apple, the kind of the go-go days are over. You saw that in the recent report. They can't even kind of keep up, you know, iPhone sales, iPad sales are kind of flat. It reminds me of kind of IBM, you know, post the 60s. It was a great company. They still did do good things, but it was kind of in the mature stage. If you have a long time frame, yeah, I think Apple's great. I think there's better places I'd park my money, but I'm a little bit shorter. I do think the stock's going to go lower, by the way.
All right, wait, Gary, you can't say that you have better places to park your money and then not say where. What do you like better?
I still think Google is. If you want in that sector, if you will, I think Google is a much better play. They're still doing innovative things. They're still growing as a company. They still got their hands on a lot of different things. I just haven't seen that from Apple. You know, what else are they doing? Maybe they have some product announcements coming down the road that are going to wow us, but it
Gary,
just can't be iPad
even though the
and iPhone all the
EU is calling Google or Alphabet Google a monopoly in the same way that it did to Microsoft in the year 2000 and then essentially buggered Microsoft for the next decade?
Yeah, God bless. I like monopolies, to be honest with
listen,
you.
if you
I wish we had more Googles and Comcasts and companies like that. They're great places to have your money right now.
You know, that 1998 number kind of scares. If you start, I just finished the Isaacson, Steve Jobs book, and maybe, Gary, you can help me out with this. 1998, was that when Jobs came back? Was it 98?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Okay, so think about what happened. Jobs comes back, and the great innovator starts innovating. He assembles a team around him. Tim Cook was a key member of that team. But Jobs actually said in that book, Tim Cook is never been a product guy. And I think that's the issue always was with Tim Cook, a brilliant operation guy, a guy that can make the trains run.
Yeah, and the Apple Watch has been a flop. But I don't see Apple Watches on either one of you. Hip and happening guys.
I just want to say something about Google, though, because Google speaks to a point that Ben Stein and I were talking about, which is the cost of regulation, which is just extraordinary. You think of all the regulators in the world now. Not only have we had huge increase in regulations in the United States, but Europe now is controlled by these international regulators who not only control individual countries, but control all of Europe and very often have an influence on what happens in Asia as well. So the cost of regulations, and as you mentioned, Google's in the crosshairs of some of these European regulators.
But here's I think the point here for an investor, if you're thinking, okay, where am I going to put my money? My marginal money is which tech stock firm, Google or Apple? And Gary can back me up or not back me up on this. Apple is not innovating right now. Google faces the same sort of regulatory pressures and is constantly figuring out how to make a dollar out of a dime.
How about Facebook? Gary, is Facebook of all interest to you?
I actually like Facebook. You know, I kind of soured on it a few years ago, but yeah, I think a lot of the millennials have withdrawn from Facebook, but it's our crowd here that are more into Facebook. And I think
more than a billion users,
Yeah, I think the need for connection amongst us old farts, if you will, is growing and growing. I think that's what's going to, frankly,
don't put me in that category, whatever you do there, pal.
Yeah, Charlie's ready to leave the set. All right.